Chapter 513 to 514. Konohagakure. Bang 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 bang. Amidst the several sounds of explosive collisions, Fujin punched Hiriko's chest with such high strength that even Hiriko can't help but cry out in pain. Erg. Boom 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 boom. At the same time, under the impact of Fujin's punch, Hiriko flew out and crashed into several buildings in successions, passed by them one after another, causing rubble, gravel, and dust to fly out, and finally hit the towering outer wall of Konohagakure, broke a big hole in it, and collapsed outside in a deep pit. Puff. And just as Hiriko fell outside Konoha, Fujin also coughed out a mouthful of blood and almost collapsed on the ground. Because Fujin is wearing the Fujin mask, therefore, the blood did not splatter out, rather it flowed out along the edge of the mask and gently dripped down on the chest. Of course, the reason for Fujin to cough out blood is not any injury that Hiriko inflicted on him, it's just the recoil of the curse of the Kagaya clan that his body is suffering from. The disease of his current body has already advanced to the stage that, even if he does not actively use Shikatsu Miyaku, he will occasionally cough out blood from time to time. So Fujin is not much surprised and not too worried either. After staggering for a few steps, resisting the paralyzing sensation in the body and stabilizing the body, Fujin looked in the direction of Hiriko and sighed, "Damn, this bastard can even withstand the physical attacks of the Fujin clone body. It's really unbelievable." Although Fujin has already estimated Hiriko's strength to be extremely high, far higher than any of the current Kage, and far higher than any of the previous Kage except Senju Hashirama, that is already reaching the lower realm of a Super Kage class, after the real showdown with him. Even Fujin can't help but be surprised and reconsider Hiriko's level is still much higher than Fujin had previously estimated. Hiriko easily reaches the middle realm of the Super Kage class, perhaps as strong as Senjutsu-enhanced Kurama mode Naruto, or even higher. Whether it is Swift Release, Steel Release, or Dark Release, these Kekkai Genkai are not that big of a problem for Fujin. What's most problematic for Fujin is that Hiriko has also become extremely proficient in using the Sharingan. And after the initial temptation where Fujin fooled Hiriko and landed several hits on him by virtue of his experience in dealing with Sharingan and taking advantage of Sharingan's predictive insight, Hiriko has become extremely cautious and doesn't easily respond to temptations. Therefore, being able to attack has started to become a serious headache for Fujin. It must be known that the stronger a person, the stronger his Kekkai Genkai. With current Hiriko's strength and speed, the effect of Sharingan is extremely high. Fujin even estimates that the inside of the pair of Sharingan in Hiriko's eye sockets has already reached the realm of Manjiki Sharingan, which makes him all the more difficult. Not to mention Fujin has also found occasional flickers of lightning on Hiriko's body, which means that aside from Swift Release, Hiriko is also capable of using Lightning Chakra enhancement to again increase his speed, strength, nerve reaction, as well as sharpness. Of course, Hiriko's Lightning Chakra enhancement has yet to reach the level of Reikage, but given the rate of his progress, Fujin estimates that at best it would take him a month or two, and Hiriko would be perfectly capable of using Lightning Chakra mode similar to the Reikage, which is another headache for Fujin. Sigh, this guy really? Fujin shook his head to put out the useless thoughts and looked in the direction of the pit where Hiriko collapsed earlier. At this time, Hiriko got up from the pit and jumped back into the village through the big hole in the outer wall. And while panting heavily, he looked at Fujin with an unbelievable expression. "Damn it, you are able to hurt me. How is this possible? This should be impossible." Currently, Hiriko's physical state is not very good. The traditional Akatsuki cloak he was wearing has fallen apart, and only a few black stripes were left hanging on his body, revealing the body that is covered with bandages. There are several depressions on his body, which are the areas that have been punched by Fujin. Then there is his right hand that is twisted at an unnatural angle, and finally, there is a very serious depression on his chest indicating that several ribs have broken inside. In contrast, Fujin on the opposite side is much better. Although the Amatsukami cloak he was wearing has also been torn in various places, it is still not as ragged as Hiriko's Akatsuki cloak. Additionally, there are also no serious physical injuries on his body, except for some cuts and wound on the skin. In the shadows, White Zetsu, whose body is hidden in the ruins, spoke with an amazed tone of voice. "I really did not expect that this guy Fujin from Amatsukami would turn out to be so strong. He has been able to hold his own against Hiriko for so long. It's really taking too long for Hiriko to win." But before White Zetsu could complete, Black Zetsu spoke, "Idiot. Fujin has not only held his own against Hiriko, but also suppressed him throughout the battle." White Zetsu was stunned, and asked with a somewhat inconceivable tone, "Does that mean Hiriko would lose?" Based on the judgment of the Akatsuki organization, the strength of Hiriko is very high unless he suffers a backlash from the chimera buds in his body. Hiriko is more than capable of thrashing down the Gakage on his own, and this transcendence will only become more and more obvious with the passage of time. In other words, Hiriko's growth potential is extremely high, and he is considered one of the trump cards of the Akatsuki organization. According to Black Zetsu's own estimation, Hiriko's potential is second only to the reincarnates of Otsutsuki Indra and Otsutsuki Azura, which in itself means a lot. So, the fact that Hiriko is suppressed by Fujin of Amatsukami is also baffling to him. Glancing at the pitiful appearance of Hiriko, Black Zetsu looked at Fujin with a thoughtful expression and said, "Something has been bugging me for a while." Fujin hasn't been injured too severely in the battle, yet he suddenly vomited out blood. This shows that the battle now is also extremely burdensome for him. I suspect that either he has used some kind of forbidden jutsu to increase his strength to such a degree that would harm himself too, or he has a serious problem in his body. White Zetsu asked, "Then what should we do?" Black Zetsu said solemnly, "Go and inform Nagato. Even if Fujin's body has some problems, it doesn't seem that we would be able to capture him or recover the box of ultimate bliss just by relying on Hiriko." "Okay." White Zetsu nodded, and then Zetsu as a whole sunk under the ground and disappeared without a trace. Back to the battlefield. Out of frustration at repeatedly being unable to defeat Fujin, Hiriko roared in anger, "Die! You will die tonight. No one can save you, no one." While just recovering his breath from the paralyzing sensation, Fujin said lightly, "Are you only going to curse this to death? Or are you going to fight? Come on, if you think you can kill this one, you can try, although you should be careful too, and not accidentally die at this one's hands." "Oh, you think you are so tough that you can defeat me? Idiot. Do you think I have used all my strength?" With a cold sneer, Hiriko said, "The level of power I have is not something that someone like you who only uses magnet release and is good at taijutsu can imagine." As Hiriko said so, many gelatinous chimera buds protruded from Hiriko's body, appeared out of the gaps in the bandages, then wrapped around the twisted arm of Hiriko and restored it to its original condition. At the same time, the depression in the chest also returned to its original state with a wave of squirming. Looking at Hiriko, whose severely wounded body was restored back to normal in the blink of an eye, Tsunade was shocked and said solemnly, "This is definitely not medical ninjutsu. This should be the result of some kind of body modification similar to Orochimaru." Jiraiya had a bitter expression on his face as he looked at Hiriko and listened to Tsunade. Not only are there regrets on his face that a former friend of theirs went astray and became a monster in human skin, but also worries about Konoha's fate. Hiriko's strength is already extremely strong that Jiraiya can't even put up a fight against him, and now that Hiriko has shown a terrifying recovery ability, Jiraiya doesn't even know whether defeating Hiriko is possible or not. Fujin's condition doesn't seem very good either. I have to do something to assist him in dealing with Hiriko. Ninjutsu won't work against Hiriko because of his dark release. Then maybe I can try using Sage Chakra Enhanced Genjutsu on him with the help of Boss and Madam. After making up his mind, Jiraiya discussed his intention with the two great Sage Toads and got Red to help Fujin. Seeing the nervous expression of Tsunade and Jiraiya, then the recovered Hiriko, but not so well Fujin, even Kurenai was a little nervous. She had believed that Futen would definitely win, but is not so sure after witnessing Hiriko's recovery. And Kakashi, who had already hidden several flying Raijin marks all over the battlefield in secret, also focused on the battle intently. He is looking for opportunities to intervene and help out Fujin in dealing with Hiriko. As far as Kakashi understands, although it is difficult to distinguish whether Amatsukami is their enemy or ally, dealing with the members of the Akatsuki organization is more important because tonight Akatsuki organization is their mortal enemy. Hiriko, whose injuries were completely healed, suddenly raised his hands to quickly complete the hand signs, Storm Release Secret Technique, Demon Dragon Storm. With the launch of Storm Release Ninjutsu, dark clouds covered the sky above Konoha and lightning, and thunder began to roar. Standing near the broken outer wall, Hiriko stayed still and said with a mocking smirk, "Do you see that? This is my full strength. Next, enjoy your death." Following Hiriko's shout, the lightning and thundering in the sky above Konoha intensified. Tsunade said, "These clouds are formed by storm release. Everyone must be careful. If anyone is hit by the lightning, it would be highly dangerous." Jiraiya, who was trying to enter sage mode, looked at the dark lightning clouds in the sky with the thought, "I hope I can make it in time." And while everyone was worried and Hiriko was smirking at the joy of his impending win, Fujin looked at Hiriko and asked in confusion, "What gave you the illusion that this one has used everything that this one can and have nothing left to be able to defeat you?" As he said, a bone blade glowing with cold light protruded out of the palm of Fujin's hand. "Shikatsu Miyako?" Seeing the bone blade protruding out of the palm of Fujin's hand, Hiriko raised an eyebrow in surprise. "Shikatsu Miyako?" Hiriko studied and researched many Kekiai Genkai when he was selecting the best 5 Kekiai Genkai he wanted to absorb, so he is no stranger to Shikatsu Miyako of the Kagaya clan. Hiriko has also personally fought against the new members of the Akatsuki organization, including Kagaya Takashi, in order to test their combat ability. Although neither side did its best in the combat, it was Hiriko who suppressed the entire Kirigakure team consisting of 5 members all by himself. And frankly speaking, Hiriko wasn't deeply impressed by any of the new members, except for maybe Hoshigaki Kisame. So, even though Hiroko saw Fujin use Shikatsumiyaku, he didn't really care too much because in his opinion, although Shikatsumiyaku is a very practical Kekiai Genkai, it is not strong enough and won't change anything in this battle. With this thought, Hiroko raised his right hand into the sky. Instantly, a flash of lightning fell from the dark clouds and wrapped around Hiroko's arm. Holding the dazzling lightning that is giving out palpitating feeling, Hiroko smiled and said, "If Shikatsumiyaku is your only trump card, then I will be very disappointed." Fujin fully enhanced the sharpness of the bone blade in his hands, and said with an indifferent tone, "I hope you won't regret it later." After speaking so, Fujin didn't wait for Hiroko's reply and instantly disappeared from his position. Looking at Fujin's figure with a Sharingan, Hiroko said with a Glasgow grin, "Heh, no matter how fast you run, will you be faster than lightning itself." After speaking so, Hiroko pressed his hand on the ground. "'Tis easy." Instantly, the highly concentrated lightning chakra wrapped around Hiroko's arm spread in all directions like pulsating waves. On the sidelines, looking at the lightning rushing towards her face, Tsunade shouted, "Hurry up, everyone! Scatter!" With Tsunade's warning, the Konoha shinobi on the edge of the battlefield instantly scattered like birds and beasts. On the battlefield, Hiroko kept waving his hand, while simultaneously controlling the lightning in the thunderstorm clouds in the sky above Konoha. In this scene, Hiroko was like a conductor, and lightning danced under his command. Wherever he pointed his finger, pillars of lightning with voltage as high as 300 million volts to 1 billion volts would fall from the sky and hit that exact spot, causing multiple rumbling sounds. Considering his generous character, Hiroko wasn't discriminated against with his attacks. Although most of the attacks were directed towards Fujin, the Konoha shinobi weren't spared either. In this dangerous zone, where pillars of lightning rained down on the sky, Fujin was like an incredibly fast ghost. He avoided each and every attack by virtue of his extremely high speed on Byakugan's insight. But the Konoha shinobi on the sidelines were not so lucky. In the fight between two extremely strong powerhouses, they suffered despite how far they were from the main battlefield. Although Tsunade had warned everyone to scatter away, the speed, insight, and nerve reaction of most of the shinobi is not so fast, so before they managed to retreat far away, many of them were engulfed by pillars of lightning. Ah. Arg. In the blink of an eye, the sounds of the wailing of people who were instantly killed because of being struck by the pillars of lightning started to resound all over Konoha. Anyone who was struck by pillars of lightning would turn into a pile of smoking coke and die on the spot. Art of the Raging Lion's Mane. Jiraiya, who was preparing to enter the sage, made quickly use ninjutsu to lengthen his hair to help several Konoha shinobi dodge the lightning pillars. Smash. Boom. Tsunade on the other side also hit the ground with her chakra-enhanced fist. Accompanied by roar and tremor, Tsunade's fist hit the ground, causing rock pieces to fly into the air to protect her and Konoha shinobi around her. 8 trigrams. Revolving Heaven. Watatsumi also used Revolving Heaven in order to protect several Konoha shinobi including Kakashi, Hana, and Rabbit. But noting that Akame was not around, Watatsumi searched for her position, then looked at Kakashi. "Kakashi?" Kakashi nodded and instantly flashed away using Flying Raijin. Because Akame was too busy observing the battle between Fujin and Hiroko, so she got her ankle bruised while retreating and was a step too late to dodge the curtain of lightning spread around by Hiroko. Now fallen to the ground with her thigh injured and bleeding, she hissed in pain and looked at the pillar of lightning descending on top of her with a horrifying expression. Just when the pillar of lightning was about to fall on her, Kakashi appeared next to her with Flying Raijin and immediately disappeared together with her. Then very next instant, Kakashi and Kurenai, Akame's mask has been removed because of being destroyed, appeared next to Watatsumi and the rest of the members of the team, who have hidden themselves in a building after taking some measures against the lightning pillars. After putting down Kurenai to let Hana heal her, Kakashi asked Watatsumi, "How's the situation?" Because the distance from the battlefield is too far and lightning pillars are continuously raining down, it is very difficult for Kakashi to be able to understand the exact situation since he has already lost the Sharingan. Therefore, he can only rely on Kuroto, Shadow Clone, to better understand the situation on the battlefield. Watatsumi, Kuroto's Shadow Clone, had already activated the Byakugan and sighed, "Everyone alive has already retreated into safe zones, but as for the situation of the battlefield, I can't make out the exact situation. Too much lightning chakra in the surroundings is affecting my visual acuity, but based on what I am able to make out, Fujin has been able to constantly dodge all the pillars of lightning, so we shouldn't worry too much. I think Fujin might be able to defeat Hiroko." After listening to Watatsumi's analysis, Kurenai, whose injury has been treated by Hana, looked at Watatsumi with a suspicious expression on her face. Watatsumi, Hyuga Kuroto's Shadow Clone, noticed Kurenai's expression and questioned, "What's wrong? Why look at me like this? Did I say something wrong?" Kurenai got up and said, "Kuroto-kun, for some time, I have been feeling that something is wrong with you tonight. With your character, how can you be so peaceful and carefree even when so many strong individuals are present in Konoha's? The shadow clone was speechless after hearing Kurenai and asked, "When did I leave you with the impression that I have a reckless character?" Hate, Master moved. On the side, wiped the sweat from his forehead and said, "Apart from Jiraiya-sama and Tsunade-sama, who are barely qualified to be able to intervene in such battles, no one else can interfere, not even Captain. Although Captain is a bit proud and arrogant, he is not stupid." Hyuga, Master moved, nodded with hate. Yes, Captain can still analyze the difference in strength between him and Hirako. Besides, with Captain's mentality, he would not interfere in such a battle where he stands no chance at all. With hate and Yugao's comment, Kuroto's shadow clone became more speechless. "Hey, you idiots, don't talk nonsense. I am confident and perhaps somewhat proud, but I am not arrogant. Besides, I am your captain. Shouldn't you people have some respect for me?" At this time, Kurenai leaned closer to Kuroto's shadow clone and whispered lightly, "Frankly explain. Kuroto-kun, do you know Futen personally?" Ever since she has seen the pair of Byakugan in the eye sockets of Futen, Kurenai believes that Futen is most definitely a member of the main family of the Hyuga clan. Kurenai's guess is more confirmed considering the somewhat similar appearance of Kuroto and Futen. Listening to Kurenai's question, Kuroto's shadow clone asked with a confused expression, "Who is this Futen?" Kuroto will obviously not give Kurenai any hint about his connection with Futen. As for the reason why he did not participate in any major battle, one reason is that he was supposed to be a reinforcement to Jiraiya and Tsunade, and another reason is that currently he is a shadow clone. Being a shadow clone, there is always a risk of disappearing. Although this risk is very low for him because of a very good supply of chakra because of Toyotama's presence, it doesn't mean that the shadow clone won't disappear if hit by a powerful attack. Really? Kurenai looked at Kuroto suspiciously, but did not ask anymore. On the battlefield, with continuous body flicker, Fujin continued to flash from one position to another and arrived in front of Hirako. Damn it. Seeing that Fujin was not only able to dodge the rain of lightning pillars, but also managed to pass through the dense lightning nets covering the entire battlefield, Hirako had an incredible expression on his face. He couldn't imagine the strength, speed, and insight required to be able to do such body maneuvering in such short instances. Fujin didn't care about Hirako's shock, and without any hesitation, he waved the bone blade in his hand to cut down Hirako. Converging his surprise, Hirako hurriedly raised his steel-release hardened hand to barely block Fujin's bone blade. King! A harsh metallic symphony resounded on the battlefield upon the collision of bone blade and Hirako's hand. Seeing that the attack was blocked, Hirako chuckled in disdain. "Idiot! Do you really think that you can break through my steel-release hardened armor with a mere bone blade?" He couldn't be more familiar with such types of idiots. In the past few years, Hirako has seen many shinobi who tried to break through the defense of his steel-release armor using various means, but all would result in for naught. All the attacks on his body will result in a metallic symphony, and nothing more. However, soon his smile solidified, as Hirako noticed that under the sharp bone blade, his arm was put down without any resistance. What? Shocked, Hirako hurriedly controlled the bandages wrapped around him to attack Fujin. At the same time, he subconsciously waved his left hand toward Fujin's head. Aside from the bandages that are as sharp as swords, Hirako's hand that came towards Fujin shot lightning at him, which could instantly penetrate his brain and kill him in one shot. But facing such an attack, Fujin did not dodge. Firstly, he controlled his hair and lengthened it to deal with the bandages coming towards him. Next, he lifted his other hand, caught the Hirako's attack that was coming towards his face, and crushed it immediately. Caught by Fujin, the lightning completely disappeared, and only smoke was left in Fujin's hand.